You ever use a system that just gets you? Like where everything actually makes sense and works like it's supposed to? That's the vibe with Empower EMR from MW Therapy. It's built specifically for physical therapists, so you're not stuck Frankensteining a bunch of software that was designed for other industries together. Empower is your one-stop shop from scheduling and billing to reporting and even built-in marketing. The real magic? The automation. This thing works with you, filling your schedule, reminding patients, and keeping everything moving behind the scenes. Clinics are raving about how fast the switch was and how much time they're saving. If you're tired of fighting your EMR and ready to work with a system that lifts you up instead of dragging you down, head to mwtherapy.com and schedule a demo. Empower, the upgrade you didn't know you needed.
And then the best part is that it starts to open up the conversation with the patient. Oh, you have this available here. And once the patient starts asking you questions, you're never selling. Yeah. It's really now just making sure that they have the ability to make their choice and the right choice for themselves and their household.
In physical therapy, we talk a lot about patient care, outcomes, and referrals. But what if one of the biggest untapped opportunities for your clinic wasn't a new treatment technique or a piece of high-tech equipment, but something much simpler? Imagine this. A patient walks into your clinic, gets great care, and leaves feeling better. But what if instead of sending them home with just advice, you also sent them home with the right tools to manage their own recovery? Something they trust because it came from you. That's where Clinic Retail comes in. Today, we're talking with Paul Timko, VP of Marketing at Stop Pain Clinical. He's on a mission to help PTs unlock the power of professional products, not just to boost revenue, but to improve patient satisfaction and outcomes. So why should you be thinking differently about retail in your clinic? How do you do it without feeling like a salesperson? And most importantly, how can you start today? Let's welcome in Paul to explain that here on PT Pintcast. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Exciting timing.
We just missed each other in person. We would have been doing this in person, but then I like doing things in person. Don't get me wrong, I really do. I used to go to a conference and do 15, 20 episodes. I used to stack people like PTs are stacking patients one after the other. And then when I realized it's like, you're there for another thing. Like you're there doing your thing and I'm doing my thing. And both of us are looking at the clock and we're like, when's this thing going to end so I can get back to doing my thing? And now I'm like, you know what? Do it when everybody has like 20 decent minutes in the day and we don't have to rush to the next meeting. Remember what that was like? Where we didn't have to rush to the next meeting maybe like 10, 15 years ago? That was great.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
So what's your superhero backstory? Everybody that I talked to about you, where they bring you up and they go, this guy gets it. He's been in the profession. He's been around for a long time. Like, help people get a little context.
Yeah, I'll try to kind of think what they'll say about me. I'll try to be modest, but the one thing that kind of always comes up is really my passion and my kind of narrow area of expertise, which is clinic retail. It doesn't sound. It sounds, one of the kind of the misnomers when it comes to clinic retail, it's like everybody kind of goes to retail selling stuff, and it may maybe have a negative connotation. But really, what I found and the reason why I gravitated to that area is that I'm not a clinician, I'm not a PT. I've had the luxury of being around PTs for now 15 plus years through a couple different jobs, and what I've learned is the area that I can bring the most is through providing education around professional products and what they can do clinically to help the patient in the clinic and also the patient at home, and provide that continuity for the PT who wants to make sure their patients do their homework, adhere to their exercise program. And that's what I do pretty much every day now. And physical is a big part of it. I get to spend a lot of time with physical owners and their lead therapists on really talking about what I love, which is clinic retail.
So step one of educating is probably untying knots that have been there. Right? Like, so a lot of PTs might hesitate to incorporate retail into their clinics. Number one, because we're bleeding hearts. And I can say that because I'm one, right? We're bleeding hearts. Of course, I don't want to sell anybody anything, but I have no problem giving you a link or something to look up on YouTube or on Amazon and go there. So what's the big untying of the knot? Before you can educate, you've got to make sure that they don't have misconceptions. What are the biggest misconceptions that PTs typically have, and how do you help re-educate and overcome those?
Yeah, the biggest one is they don't want to sell, right? It's, I didn't go to school, I'm here to help people, get better, right? And move better and pain free. And so when you think of those things, it's that, again, it goes back to that negative connotation. I don't want to sell stuff. And what the knot that we're trying to untie is really to make sure that they understand they're in a unique position, first off, right? In their communities, they're a respected, credible source for things that people need to feel better. And it's not just about rehab. It's an opportunity in that community to be that first line of, whether it's for that rehab, these are the tools you need, or it's educating them about how to use these things or bring these things into their household for their friends, their family, their kids. And right now we're in this crazy place of, you can get everything the same day or the next day with Amazon, right? So I think it's even more important. PTs are in the best position possible because of their training, their experience, and really their passion to educate individuals on how to bring the right products into their household and use them the right way. You think about it, if you're buying something from Amazon, you don't get you don't get, a PT doesn't come with it. No. So you might be using it wrong. You might have, wasted money on something that isn't the right thing for you or the right resistance level, like with a TheraBand or, a resistance product. So it really, I feel more bullish about PTs being the source for this type of information and access to products than ever. It really is. It's a great time to be a PT and offer this as a service. So that knot they're untying is embracing the fact that they are this credible source that can provide access to great professional products that have been vetted by a PT.
That's what a PT does, right? Especially, I'll give some love to my running physical therapist. When the new version of whatever shoe company comes out with the newest version, they're the first to go and dissect and try it out, put their feet in it and take a look at what's there and, be stripping it apart. And so you're a trusted source. So someone thinking that someone's not going to go and look for an alternative or an additive solution to their pain or their discomfort, that's just foolish, right? So being the guide there and not just poo-pooing it is one step, but also getting PTs to understand that S word is not a 4-letter word. Sell is a 4-letter word, but not one of those 4-letter words. So you talk a lot about how retail can actually enhance patient outcomes. Can you give us an example of maybe somebody in our profession that saw real results after implementing a retail strategy?
Yeah, I really have two. I'll keep it to two. There's actually three that I think are truly best practices that we always use to help people kind of uncross their arms when they're there Saturday morning learning about selling, right?
Right.
So, and the first one is something known as the Tyler twist. Tim Tyler, a great PT up in the Northeast, did a study with TheraBand flex bars many years ago about the effectiveness of just doing a basic eccentric exercise with the flex bar and doing it daily and doing the reps and again, adhering to your exercise program with this. If anybody doesn't know what a flex bar is, it's just kind of think of like a rubber kind of rod that you kind of move back and forth, kind of stretch it with your forearm and your wrists and do a nice little protocol. Yep. That's
Indian burn, right? You used to like you're cranking on.
Exactly. So, and what it was done is the study showed it's extremely effective of not only relieving the pain, but providing, the strengthening that's needed in an eccentric movement for tennis elbow, lateral epicondylitis. And there's also a reverse version for medial. And the key thing there is that in most patients, that anybody that's ever suffered from tennis elbow, they'll do anything. And they've tried a bunch of things to get rid of it. And it's there with them pretty much every day. And so in order to get better, you have to use that flex bar every day per the protocol. So you need to make that investment to have that $20 product at home. And I can tell you, if you give that option to a patient to make that investment, they're going to do it 100 times out of 100 times, right? So, but that's what the study shows. So you can't have them come in every day. That's just not the reality with PT. So you need to be able, that patient needs to be able to make that investment so they have stake in the, in the game, but also that they have access to the product to do their home exercise appropriately. So that's one aspect of it. The other one is my favorite is Stop Pain Clinical. That's my day job. Is that introducing them early to a topical pain relief product that provides temporary relief can really help them during those first 1, 2, and 3 visits. That can be very difficult and challenging for a patient, because we all know that those cases of after that first visit, they're a little bit sore. They're like, oh man, is this really doing more harm than good? But they're using muscles that they haven't used in a while, and they're getting through the rehab. So it gives you an immediate education opportunity to say, hey, this is something I'm going to give you in a case of a sample, and it's going to help you with some pain relief that you're going to have during these early stages and maybe beyond. And then the best part is that it starts to open up the conversation with the patient. Oh, you have this available here. And once the patient starts asking you questions, you're never selling. Yeah. It's really now just making sure that they have the ability to make their choice and the right choice for themselves and their household.
Yeah. Yeah. Education, explaining. When I moved the goalpost from I need to do something to get someone else to do something, right? That's hard, right? Mm-hmm. When I changed it to I make suggestions, you make decisions. So my only goal in this situation is to achieve understanding. I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying, and then you're going to make that decision, and I'm going to remove myself from that outcome. When I explain that to PTs, they get a little better at it. Then I give my dad example. My dad was a New York City fireman. They didn't really have to sell stop, drop, and roll or call 911 if there's a fire. Mm-hmm. Their job was just like, make sure you understand it, and make sure you understand it. We're going to hit you with it in school, billboards, the whole nine. When you move that, it becomes less about selling, again, this bad thing, and more about explaining. And then ultimately we make suggestions. They're going to make decisions. And I think PTs grasp on that. We're okay with educating.
Yes. And think about, it's also everybody thinks Amazon is the most convenient thing. No, the most convenient thing is to be able to purchase that item that can help you at that moment, right at that moment, because then you can immediately say, think about like a TheraBand. Most people look at a clumped up piece of rubber and they're thinking like, what do I do with this thing? But they now can actually get that product when they need it and immediately learn the best way to use it.
Bingo. And then you go to Amazon and there's things that are close. Like my buddy would be like, make sure you get this tool for this project. And I'm on there and there's 2. And I'm like, which one is it? Right? Is there a difference? And he's like, oh no, if you bought that one, we wouldn't have been able to do the job, So it's like, make sure they get the right thing in the right time. And then that added bonus is they're going to know how to use it appropriately and what to avoid. That you become part of that experience because you're the Yoda, you're the guide. All right, if you're still doing all your notes by hand, we need to talk. Athelis AI Scribe is changing the game. You walk in, you talk to your patient like you normally would, you treat them, and boom, your notes are drafted in real time. Thanks to AI. No voice commands, no clicking around. It just listens and writes like a scribe, but smarter. People are cutting their documentation time by 90%. That's not a typo, 90%. That's actual feedback from real clinicians using it now. You want to see it in action? Go to athelis.com and take a test drive. That's ATHELAS.com and say goodbye to after hours charting.
Yes, exactly. You want to remove as many barriers as possible. Kind of goes back to not only adherence, but now we're talking about outcomes. Because the sooner, if there's any disruption, let's say they bought the right red TheraBand that they were supposed to from Amazon, and it arrives a day and a half later or 2 days later, it's delayed. Now there's a gap. There's now do they remember exactly the right technique, the right form? Right. So the fact that they're leaving your office, your clinic with the product they need to be able to walk home or get home and actually do the exercise, that's going to make sure there's more continuity with what they did in the clinic. And there's there's less risk for disruption because they have everything they need to get started.
Yeah. Time is of the essence. Now, for someone who's just starting out, if they're still listening to this episode 10 minutes in, right? And they're like, okay, you've convinced me to at least sniff around this idea of retail in my clinic space. What's the easiest way to integrate retail into a clinic visit without making it feel like a pitch? That's the thing I think clinicians don't want to do, is they don't want to feel icky.
Yeah. Well, first off, it's a key thing. And I would say right out of the gate, engage your team. Get them involved. Make sure that they understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and also how we're going to do it. And then make sure they're involved with kind of doing the rigor up front of what are the right things we want to focus in on. And when you're talking about integrating it into the patient visit, it is about making sure that it adds to the visit, that it's going to help with the outcome and it's going to help the patient feel better. And it's not something that you are trying to force. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that your entire team says, yes, when we're treating this type of patient, we're gonna integrate these one or two things throughout the visit to make sure they have the best visit possible. And then it builds over time, because really the key thing is once they go home and do that first thing you introduced them to, they come back. And now it might be time to assess and progress to something else. Maybe think of like balance and stability. You might have started pretty basic at the beginning just to get them comfortable and moving, sure, whether it's rehab or whatever the situation may be. So then you're really getting in this cadence, and your team is getting in this cadence of what's the plan? Like what's the strategy for this patient? And products and tools should always be part of it. And they should be thoughtful about, how do I replicate this? And how does the patient replicate this in the best, safest way possible at home? No. And we keep building throughout the process. So I would say integrate things that you certainly have done your due diligence on to make sure they're the right product that you feel strongly about, and they add to the visit, and really are never a commercial. You don't want to be somebody that just adds shampoo to the salon treatment just to sell shampoo. That's not what it's about. It's got to enhance what you're doing.
Yeah, love the way you put that. Now, you don't have to use their name, but is there somebody that comes to mind, a clinic that maybe, as you mentioned before, had their arms crossed and was sort of anti, then maybe they uncrossed their arms and they embraced and made a major shift in retail strategy and did see results like that?
Well, yeah, what I found, I won't have to name any names, but I'll name one, but it'll be in a very positive way. But here's the common thread that we see is that most clinics that come to us, and we have this with Hyperice, we have a mastermind that we kind of take multiple clinics through this process to kind of get over what you're talking about. So, but it's almost universal that they're at a point of where they're struggling. They're like, we know we're surrounded by reminders that we can be better at what we're doing. And they just need somebody to kind of guide them through to make sure that they have the tool, kind of the quick reminders of what we're talking about, little tips and best practices, but also kind of knock down these preconceived notions that it is about selling. Because revenue, I always say, is a byproduct of this. Like, just do this and good things will come financially. But it really always we ground everybody in this right from the beginning. For the first meeting, I would do something similar to the conversation we're having with a group of 10 clinics and say, hey guys, first off, let's talk about what challenges you're facing. And of course, they say the same ones we hear every single time. And then we just kind of work through it in a discussion conversation and develop those strategies. First off, let's all level set on the fact that we're here to do good, right? We're here to do good. And this is not about selling products. So my favorite is Rolf Schultz. And I shouldn't say favorite. I don't have favorites. But the most recent one, we did our first cohort for the Clinic Retail Mastermind down in Texas. And extremely engaged. He reached out pretty much weekly with us throughout over a quarter. Towards the end of the year. And they had ideas, they had creativity, they had some challenges along the way. And we just kept chipping away at it. And then the results really blew away, I think, anybody's expectations. And the best part about it is that I saw them grow every week of the way. So yeah, maybe their arms were a little bit crossed, but it was more about how do we figure this out? And we were able to take it step by step with very easy, kind of simple, repeatable steps throughout the process. And now their team's off and running.
Love that. If a clinic wanted to get started today, what's the one thing they should do? The first thing they should do right now to see immediate impact? And then I'm also going to ask a follow-up question. What's the deal with that mastermind? How does someone find out more about that?
Yeah, the first thing I would do is I'll try not to be biased here. But so this will be just kind of, I'll do two. The first one is always look for ways to add something during the first visit with that patient. So I always say the easiest one, again, the biased one is stop pain clinical. Make sure you're setting that expectation about having access to topical pain relief and using one after their visit. So that's the best way to get started. The other one is if you're giving away TheraBand, stop now. And if you take that one head on with your team, and there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable, they're already paying so much. They're already, and what I would say to them, if you can get over that hurdle, which we would help them do, everything else is smooth sailing because it's the most important one. You think about it, if you're given something, if you're a patient and you're given one or two TheraBands and they're clumped up and they're cut off of a roll right in front of you, if you get those, are you truly going to value those and understand the true utility and the amazing things you can do with an elastic resistance band? So if you can get your team over that hump, again, you're going to be in a great position to win.
Yeah. And then what's the deal with that mastermind? How does that, I mean, I've never heard of this. I know Eric, I just met you. What's the deal?
Yeah, so I've known Eric with Hyperice and Normatech for many years, and we've always had this kind of shared passion around helping clinics with their cash-based services and retail. So what we do is we kind of meet with groups of clinics at a time. We try to find 8 to 10 that reach out to us to reserve their spot, and over the course of a kind of like
Brilliant.
a 6-week period, we take them through 1-hour sessions where they are typically on there themselves, or they can send a proxy if they have a conflict, but we record everything. We go through it. We provide feedback and tools to kind of get through this and put together a great system, for their clinic retail. And we did the initial cohort back in Q4, which Rolf Schultz was a part of, and they were great, engaged, showed up. I think for everybody had perfect attendance for the most part. So that was really nice to see. And so now we're looking at adding another 10, which I think we have already because we just came off of Brand Triumph and we had a lot of interested parties. So we have 10, but we're going to look at doing a parallel one so we can run multiple at the same time. And then we're looking at doing a kind of a larger virtual kickoff where we can have a longer format where people can just pick one evening and get 2 to 3 hours of a boot camp done with us. So, but the one that's most important is this kind of weekly mastermind. And the way to do that is just all you have to do is go fill out a quick form, and it reserves a spot for them. And it's stopa.in/mastermind. And I'll make sure you have that as well. But that's the easiest way to do it.
Smart. I mean, just smart. I mean, you said at the beginning of the show, right? Even if people didn't believe you, they're like, this guy sells stuff for a living. He's going to sell me. You said my real job is education. And you just said we're doing a mastermind, which is PTs are very comfortable with this because that's college, right? A mastermind, you get a bunch of people together who don't know something and you walk through as a cohort for mutual success. If people wanted to reach you directly, Paul, and wanted to find out more, not just about the mastermind, but about Stop Pain Clinical, where would you send them?
I would actually do it through that same email, that same link, that stopa.in/mastermind. And if for some reason they just want to reach out and talk to me, they certainly can call me. Seriously, I know it's going to be crazy, but they can call me anytime. We take pride in the fact of being available whenever people need us. So, do you want me to give my number right now? Is that
if you're going to give your number out? I've given my number. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's 440-396-4361. And they can text that number, they can call, and we can jump right into a conversation about clinic retail or anything else that I can do to help out.
Love it. All right, Paul, we have a tradition on the show. It's called the parting shot. It's your last chance for a mic drop moment, a soapbox statement. What's one idea, one concept you'd want to leave with the audience as we wrap up?
Right. So, Mike, I got to get a mic drop while you're setting me up for either success or failure, right? So I would say, right now, it's all about creativity, and people want to have fun, right, at work, and they certainly have the good days and the bad days. But the key thing that I would challenge everybody with is make clinic retail fun, engage your staff, empower your staff, and not just your clinical staff, your entire team, your front desk, and say, hey guys, get creative, come up with an idea, throw something crazy out there, decorate. Come up with a fun theme. We've got we're going into spring, so we've got people running and being more active. We've got golfers and we got the Masters coming, whatever time this podcast airs, I don't know. But think about what's going on around you over the next several weeks and challenge your team to be creative. That can, when patients come in, they see something different, meaning they're like, they ask questions. Get them to ask questions, and whoever can you guys can text me a quick image of that creativity, and I'll make sure that there's nice prizes for everybody. And that's where Hyperice comes in. They'll chip in with us, and all the great things that they have. So that's my mic drop moment: is be creative. Send in some images of your team really kind of going above and beyond, and we'll make sure to take care of them.
I think that also ties this whole episode up with a bow, which is like, make it yourself. So by you adding creativity, Paul's telling you, do your own version of this. There's no real wrong. If you believe in it and this is your way, do it that way. Paul Timko from Stop Pain Clinical, appreciate the time. And thanks for making this pretty clear and pretty easy to understand.
No, appreciate it. Thank you for the time and the opportunity. Love it.
You ever wonder how those rock star clinicians seem to just know what to do? Like they've got a sixth sense in clinic. Well, here's the secret. Brooks IHL. Their residency and fellowship programs for PTs, OTs, and SLPs are where clinical skills meet elite mentorship. We're talking 150 hours of one-on-one mentoring, lab training that's immersive, and real-world experience inside Brooks Rehabilitation's top-tier system of care. And unlike some programs where you have to put your career on pause, Brooks IHL pays you a full salary while you level up. Their grads consistently outperform national board pass rates, and most of their mentors, they've been through the program themselves. If you're serious about being a clinical expert, this is the move. Go to brooksihl.org and check out all 10 program tracks. The next level of your career is waiting at Brooks.